Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Kemi, and I'm here to talk about Beyond the Gates Season 2, Episode 115. Now, before we begin, make sure you guys are liking, subscribing, and turning on your post notifications so you'll know whenever I post. All right, so we start the episode off seeing Shanice and Ted talking, and Shanice is basically telling Ted that he looks, more free than he's been in the last couple of days. He's happy, he's happy that, he's proud of, um, child, why'd I forget? He's proud of Kat for, stepping up. Then they hear beeping on the monitor and they say that's Kat's room and then they run off. So we see Madison, she's checking on Eva, and she's just, making sure everything's all good or whatever. Um, she wants to know why she's seeing a neurologist when she had liver surgery. I mean, a transplant or whatever. And Madison is telling her, Ted wanted to be sure that she didn't have a concussion or whatever. She says she feels, she's telling her how she feels bad about Kat. And Madison is telling her it's not her fault. She says Kat won't see it like she won't see it that way. Um, in my notes, I said, you think the worst of Kat because that's how you would. Nothing you've seen of Kat with her people has shown you that she is the person she is with you. You bring out the worst in Kat and you would want to need to fix it. So we go to Kat's room. She's trying to get out the bed. They're trying to tell her that she can't be walking around. That she says, I need a wheelchair, and they want to know what's so important. She says she needs to see Eva. So we see Anita. She's on the phone with her doctor, and she's trying to reschedule. She's trying to cancel her appointment that she has coming up. Vernon comes in and wonders why. She's telling him that she's sick of the treatment, and she has to put it on pause because they have to take care of Kat. And he wants to know if that's all it is. So we see Andre. He is watching Dani sleep and she wakes up. They talk about her tossing and turning all night. She says that she's had trouble sleeping since the surgery. He says, but you've been doing that since the tornado and being stuck in that elevator all to yourself. We see Bill. He's in his office. He's flashing back to the elevator scene. And then he says Dani's name and Naomi is there watching him and she says wrong Dupree. He plays it off, but Naomi isn't buying it. He tries again, saying he couldn't imagine Chelsea and Naomi being in the predicament that Eva and Kat are in. She says it would never be that because she would give up an organ to save Chelsea. She tells him that wasn't it. She brings up him calling Dani baby a while back. He plays it off and she says, but y'all despise each other. Um, and he says, look at us now, something like that. I can't remember. I ain't take my notes right. Sorry. So we go back to Dani. She's talking about the tornado and says she was just stuck in the elevator. He tells her not to downplay it, and she can talk to him if she needs to. She says nothing to tell and jokes about it and says sometimes the night comes back. He tells her and tell me about it. I can bring you back from there. They start kissing and then they have sex. So we see Leslie. She pops up on Shanice, and she tells her that Eva has a visitor right now. Leslie says that's fine. She wanted to talk to Shanice. She wants to give them money, like a tip for help for being there for Eva, or whatever. And Shanice is telling her that's not how it goes. But Leslie ain't understanding, and she's just like, "Well, you won't get the tip. I'll give it to the others or whatever." So we go back to Eva's room and we go to Eva's room and Ted comes in and oh wait, no, sorry. We see Chelsea. She's meeting with Tomas. He needs advice. He wants to propose to Kat. We go to Eva's room. She's reading her book. Ted comes in and says, "Are you up for a visitor?" She says, "Sure." And he was just like, "It's not me, it's Kat." So, He brings in Kat. Eva's shocked. She didn't think she'd be up so soon. Kat's talking about how she had to fight to come see her, and hopes Ted will give them time alone to talk. He says okay, but the call button, use the call button if they need anything. He leaves, and then Eva says, first, I want to say thank you for saving my life. So we go back to Anita and Vernon, and she's telling him she just wants a minute to feel normal and not worry about the big C. She doesn't want to be blindsided by what they may find. She just wants a moment to be herself. He gives her a pep talk and talks her and tells her he wants her to finish with this chapter of her life so they can get back to normal. She understands what he's saying. So we go back to Bill and Naomi, and they're talking about the case. He tells her to prepare an argument about a speedy trial, and she wants to know what he's going to do because he's getting up to leave. And he tells her that he's going to go play golf, and she gets pissed. And then he tells her who he's playing golf with, and she'll just like, oh, okay, well, as long as you don't black, because it's a judge, the circuit judge that's presiding over the case or whatever. And she was just like, as long as you don't blackmail him or bribe him, then we're all good. And he's just like, I wouldn't do anything to get myself disbarred or mess up the case. So we see Tomas talking with Chelsea. He's asking would Kat like this ring? Chelsea says Kat needs to focus on getting well. He says, are you worried that this engagement will steal the thunder from you and Madison? So we go back to Kat and Eva, and Kat's telling her, you don't need to say thanks. I already said you're welcome. Eva didn't hear it when she was out. The last thing she remembers is Kat saying, stop faking it. Kat says that wasn't her finest moment. But how would she know? She wouldn't have known something was wrong until she started coughing up the blood. Eva says, didn't I tell you to get down? Kat says, yeah, and I owe you a thank you. Eva says, I don't blame you for not believing me. I told too many lies when I came to town. Why would you believe me? And even when the truth came out, I played the victim to make you look bad. And you gave as good as you get. Kat says, thank you for admitting to gaslighting me. And she wipes a tear away from her eyes. And Eva is also like teary-eyed or whatever. Eva says, that's the least I could do. No, there's more that you could do, but I guess. She says, that's the least I could do. I do have a piece of your organ in me. It's the least I can do. She says she wants to know why Kat gave her the gift of life, and after everything that they've gone through, how can she ever repay her? And Kat says there is something that you can start, and she asked if she had any weird dreams while she was under. Eva doesn't remember, and she asks, why did you? And Kat says, yeah, and then she tells her about the dream, and then Eva says, so your worst nightmare. So we go back to Andre and Danny. They're in the afterglow of, sex or whatever. Danny doesn't want to leave. Doesn't want to leave yet. She doesn't want to be separated from him like during the tornado, and says nothing. And he says nothing will stop them. She feels like this is the first time that they've reconnected since the tornado, and she doesn't want to lose this feeling. He says nothing will change between them, and then they kiss. So we go back to Chelsea and Tomas, and she's telling him she's all for them getting engaged. She just wants to make sure it's for the right reasons. This whole thing was scary, and his head may be twisted. He says no, losing Kat and being scared clarify things for him. Almost losing Kat losing Kat because like losing her during the storm. And being scared clarify things for him. Chelsea tells him that Kat's doctor wouldn't want her to be overly excited. He says he's not going to do it while she's in the hospital. When she's ready to go home, he'll be prepared or whatever. She tells him Kat won't be in the hospital long, and he says, he has to go to a meeting, and he leaves, and then she makes a call. So we see Leslie. She can't believe that she can't give the doctors the money. She's talking to Ted at this point, and Ted tells her to donate to one of Garland's charitable donation foundations. I'm sorry, and she's like, "Oh, I got a free clinic. Why would she do that?" And he gives her a look, and she says, "Fine" or whatever. Shanice says she'll show her who she needs to talk to. She says after she sees Eva, and Ted tells her, No, she says after she sees Eva and whoever is talking to her should be done by now. And Ted is just like, no, it's a long conversation. She's talking to Kat. So we go back to Kat telling Eva more about her dream. She says Leslie was a dream mother and Nicole was a hot mess. Eva tells her, now I know you were dreaming. Kat tells her she understands why Leslie had a hold over Eva and sympathizes with her. Eva says, you gave me a piece of yourself and you got a piece of me in return, for better or worse. Kat tells her she decided to be her donor because the only other choice would be to go through her life knowing when Ted looked at her that he would see the daughter who let the other daughter pass. And she would also see that when she looked in the mirror. Eva says it's nice to know that you would feel guilty if you were responsible for my passing. Kat says that's the curse for having parents who raised me with a conscience. She then says that doesn't mean that we're sisters. Eva says that's valid, but she would like to think that if things were the other way around, she would give a piece of herself to her too as she cries. And she puts her hand out and Kat takes it and they both, they like smile a little and then they both have tears coming down their face. And I love this scene because not for nothing, as much as I dislike Eva, as much as I like their rivalry, it comes to a point where they need to be good and then they can get back being, they can get back on, oh, we dislike each other, then we get back good, then we get back disliking each other. It comes a point where we would need to do that. Because we've only been renewed for so many seasons, we only have a limited time to do things or whatever. I understand, this is supposed to be the rivalry for the books for like they're gonna hate each other for years to come. But I would like them to have some type of friendly-ish type of relationship, or at least a relationship where they're not always going at each other every time they see each other. So that's why I like this scene. So we see sorry we see Chelsea. She the call that she had made was to Madison. So she's talking to Madison and she's telling her about Tomas's plan to what is it? Child, what is it? Um Tomas's plan to propose. I'm sorry. And Madison thinks she thinks it's good or whatever. No, she doesn't see a problem. And then Chelsea says he's doing it because he almost lost her. And he's like doing this. He almost lost her and he's panicking. And she says, that's kind of like us. And, look how it turned out for us. So we see Dani. She is at the Dupree's. She's at Vernon and Anita's, and she's checking on them. Vernon tells her about Anita almost canceling her appointment or whatever. And she's just like, well, I hope I hope you stopped her or whatever. And he was just like, yeah, of course, when you've been together for this long, you have a sixth sense of when the other is doing something wrong. Dani says that's scary. And Vernon says, why? Is there something that you don't want Andre to know? So we see Tomas talking with Bill, asking advice about the golf game and how he should act with the judge or whatever. And Bill is giving him the advice. Andre comes in and he speaks to Tomas, and then they talk about Kat and how Dani was relieved. Once Kat woke up, Bill says that he's been worried about her, worried about Dani. Andre tells him he heard what he said that when they were at the hospital or whatever, and Dani's safety and happiness is his concern, and if he has to worry about anyone, it should be Eva and Kat. Tomas says he'll take good care of Kat, and he tells him he plans on proposing soon. So we go to we see Ted and Shanice come into Kat and Eva's room. They tell her that they need to take Kat back because she's been they need to take her back to her room. She says she said all that she needed to say. And then they say later to each other, Shanice takes Kat and Ted stays with Eva. He says he didn't hear any shouting. She says they didn't have enough energy. Um, and But Kat doesn't regret um, what she did. She thanks Ted for making it happen. Ted gives her a fact about livers and she says it's a biological marvel. Kat says that feels like it feels like that's what just happened in the room. For the first time, she and Kat understand where the other is coming from and they gave each other insight. Ted says it gives him hope. She says if that's what you want, then I do have a suggestion for you. So we see Chelsea. She says she and Madison are not the same as Tomas and Kat. She says that when they first met, they knew they found their forever person. Tomas and Kat, not so much. Madison says, "What's the problem?" Um, no, Madison says they had their problem, but and then Chelsea says, but neither of them wanted to be with someone else. Tomas stepped out on Kat with Eva, her half sister. Madison says, well, they worked through their issues and maybe she wants to get engaged. Chelsea says it's the last thing she needs or wants. Naomi comes in and Chelsea calls her over and Chelsea asks if Kat. She asked her if if you think Kat is ready to get married. So we go back to Bill and Tomas. Bill is shocked about him wanting to propose. He asks them for advice. Andre doesn't give any advice because he didn't really propose. Bill tells him, "Don't go off of what we did. Do what you think to do, and just remember that all the Dupree women look up to Vernon is their go to, and you need to make sure that you make sure that your proposal's on point." Um, Ted wants to know what the advice is that Eva has for him. She tells him to focus more on Kat. Um, and Oh no, she says that he's been so focused on making up for lost time with her that it's been great for her, but it made Kat resent them both. She thought Kat was spoiled and petty. Sorry. But after they talk, she sees that Kat thought that he was rejecting her for Eva. He says that wasn't the case. She tells him that, while they're recovering, spend more time with Kat. She'll have Leslie and Isaiah. He wants to be there for both of his girls, but she says, yeah, but be there for Kat a little more and choose her this time. So we see Leslie. She comes into Kat room. Kat doesn't want to see her. Leslie comes in menacing. Kat tries to call the nurse, but Leslie throws a button away and tells her the best thing about her being incapacitated is she can decide when their conversation ends. We go back to Naomi, Chelsea, and Madison. They're talking about Kat moving in with the Grants because Tomas didn't want to live with her. Chelsea says that he's doing a 180 and he wants to put a ring on it with the ring that he already got. Naomi says if he's that far along, it's going to be hard to talk him out of it. Madison can't believe she's the romantic one. She gives a big old scenario of what it's going to be. Chelsea says the situation is worse than she thought. Kat was just pressured into having surgery and made to feel like the worst person in the world if she didn't do it. And now someone else is about to put pressure on her to say yes to something she doesn't want to do. Oh yeah, so we go back to Andre and they're talking about the advice about marriage and the Vegas wedding. Andre tells him good luck and hopes his marriage is solid and happy as him and Dani and Bill smirks. Which is why I hate that she cheated on him with this guy because anyways. So we go back to where are we? We go back to Dani and her parents. Dani says she isn't keeping anything from Andre. She just likes her privacy. Anita says you always been like that, but you always had that, but you had a marriage that was filled with secrets that almost drove you to the brink of insanity. She says, yeah, but those were Bill's secrets. She says she's the difficult one in the relationship and she doesn't want to hurt Andre. Verna doesn't like her talking like this and says the marriage seems solid. Why does she think she'll wreck it? She says she would never intentionally hurt him, but after everything in the tornado, in a crisis, you don't think straight, and consequences can come up that you don't realize until later. So we go back to Ted. He is still with Eva after she done told him to pick Cat, but whatever. Ted tells Eva he's been schooled to the max to make things right, which about school to the max about treating Cat and being a crappy father. She tells him he's the best dad. He just has to remind Cat in that not in what he says but what he does. He tells her she's so magnanimous towards Cat, and it's just like it, whatever. Like, and that's another thing that irritates me because yet again, she admitted to Kat that she always played the victim to make Kat look bad. And then in this moment when he is telling her that you are always the victim of Kat, she doesn't say, "Well, you know what, dad? Actually, this is what it was." She will never do that. She'll admit it to Kat, but then turn around and still act like the victim of Cats. And people are still looking at Kat like as if she's the one who did wrong. When no, Eva, whatever. Um, he says, she says, um she started by giving me a piece of the liver or whatever. He says the way you're talking, maybe you she and Kat can treat each other like sisters. She tells him keep wishing. He thinks there's a silver lining in the whole ordeal and maybe it'll bring them closer together. So we go back to Kat and Leslie, and Kat is telling Leslie she ain't afraid of her, and she doesn't scare her. Leslie makes a dig and a compliment. Kat says thank you, um, and Leslie says no, thank her. No, she says no, thank you for saving Eva. And Kat says, has anyone ever told you that you have an way of expressing gratitude? Leslie gets soft and says she came close to losing the best thing in her life, and Kat did the right thing. Kat says, because you think everyone thinks like you. Leslie sits down and says, I want to do right by you. Kat tells her, stop calling me kitty cat. Leslie says it's a term of endearment, and Kat says she hates it. Leslie says she'll try her best, but it will be hard. But it will be a hard habit to break. Kat says, I knew you didn't mean it. She does, and she honors her debt. This is Leslie saying that. And she wants to honor this because no one has ever done anything that she did for her. Kat says she hears her, and when the time is right, she will come and collect her debt. So that was the episode. It was a good episode. Again, I like the Kat and Eva scenes because again, the what I thought they were going to do with the story, which I would have loved that they did with the story, is not where they went with the story, but we did get this. So, maybe later on down the line, we're going to get something else. And hopefully we get this, not so much of this back and forth that we're getting between them. But make sure you guys are liking, subscribing, and turning on your post notifications so you'll know whenever I post. Get down in the comments, tell me what you guys thought of this episode, and I will see you guys in the next one.